Good morning and welcome to All Souls Church. My name is Joe Maloney and I'm this week's service assistant.
And I'm Martha Durkee-Neuman, your guest speaker this morning.
We're grateful to have Martha with us this morning. Martha is a lifelong UU and young adult organizer, originally from the Pacific Northwest. She serves as a director of religious education for First Parish in Malden. She's a first-year seminarian and a grassroots political trainer working on helping people run for office. Martha is passionate about transformative justice, interfaith community building, and abolition. Thanks for joining us this morning.
I'm glad to be with you. A few logistical things. We keep everyone on mute for the service, except for our sharing of joys and concerns. Links to our order of service, which includes sheet music for our hymns, are posted in the chat.
If you're new to All Souls Church, please take a moment to click the link in the order of service and the chat for our connection card so we can stay in touch.
It's up to you if you want to turn your camera on and be seen. We do record the service, though joys and concerns shared won't be in the final recording.
Please feel free to chat in the chat box or ignore it.
During the service, please feel free to get up, move around, or take a break from the screen as you need, but try to be as present as possible. And imagine we are all in the same room together.
Finally, remember that when you are invited to sing or to pray, to share or to chat, how you participate or don't is up to you.
After church, we will have some time to say hello in breakout rooms.
Now hear these words of welcome.
All who enter in a spirit of curiosity, love, and justice are welcome this morning.
Welcome to people who love God, people who don't believe in God, and people who live in the not knowing.
People who find a higher purpose deep inside, people who find it in relationship with one another, and people who find it in the interdependence of all existence and all the people between.
Whoever you are, whatever your gifts or abilities may be, however you identify your gender or sexual orientation, wherever your life and faith journey has taken you, you are welcome here.
Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you understand the sacred, you bless us with your presence.
And now for our chalice lighting, we light our flaming chalice with words from Reverend Margaret Kite. As surely as we belong to this universe, we belong together. We join here to transcend the isolated self, to reconnect, to know ourselves to be at home, here on the earth, under the stars, linked with each other. And we follow the All Souls tradition of lighting a green candle, symbolic of our commitment to being a green sanctuary congregation. May both these flames call us to kinship with and great care for the earth and her living creatures. As we center our hearts, let's sing our chalice song for April, We Kindle This Light.
Light and celebration for the life that we share. We kindle this light and celebration for the light that we share.
Our opening words this morning come from 17-year-old youth climate leader Alicia Clark, who at age 13 co-founded an organization called Youth versus the Apocalypse. At the very core of the work of climate justice is restoring humanity and simply claiming that no one is disposable, that all are worthy, and that we should be able to live in a world where everyone can thrive. In order to do that, we have to dismantle the things that are keeping us from that, the things that are keeping us all conditioned in this society to hurt each other, to exploit each other, and it has brought us to this point of quite literally an apocalypse. We have this real opportunity to do the work that our ancestors have been trying to do for forever, which is to dismantle the faulty foundation and build something new in its place. Are we going to rebuild in the same way it was built, which is causing the destruction of our planet and people? Or are we going to build it back with justice, sustainability, and equity so that we can really live in a society that values life? I now invite you to join me in our opening hymn, The Earth, the Water, the Fire, the Air.
The water, the fire, the air, return, 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 return. The earth, the water, the fire, the air, return, 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 return. The earth, the water, the fire, the air, return, 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 return. The earth, the water, the fire, the air, return, 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 return. The earth, the water, the fire, the air, return, 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 return.
Thank you. As a spiritual community, we journey together through life's up and downs, and we hold each other in love. We take this time to reflect on our week, to recall the milestones, the joys, the concerns, the sorrows, the changes in our life, and those in need of healing. If you have a heartfelt milestone, joy, or sorrow you'd like to share, you're invited to share aloud or in the chat. If you'd like to share, you can come off mute, again by pressing the mute or unmute button in the lower left corner of your screen, or pressing *6 if you're calling in. Please share your name and briefly express what's on your heart. If you're having trouble unmuting, give us a wave and we'll come unmute you from our end. After each person shares, we will drop a stone into our water. Here's our bowl of water. It is symbolic of the water gathered and blessed in this year's water ceremony. Please know that this section won't end up in the final recording. What's shared now is kept only here in real time. If you will join me now, please, in our centering hymn, The Tide is Rising by Rabbi Shoshana Friedman.
The tide is rising, so are we. The tide is rising, so are we. The tide is rising, so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be. The land is holy, and so are we. The land is holy, and so are we. The land is holy, and so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be. storm is raging, and so are we. The storm is raging, and so are we. The storm is raging, and so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be. The sun is rising, so are we. The sun is rising, so are we. The sun is rising, so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be. The world is ready, and so are we. The world is ready, so are we. The world is ready, so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be.
This is where we are called to be. I invite you to join me in a time of meditation and prayer, first in words, then in silence, last in melody. Our words of meditation today are from the Prayer of Commitment from the UN Environmental Sabbath Program. We join with the earth and with each other to bring new life to the land, to restore the water, to refresh the air. We join with the earth and with each other to celebrate the seas, to rejoice in the sunlight, to sing the song of the stars. We join with the earth and with each other to recreate the human community, to promote justice and peace, to remember our children. We join with the earth and with each other. We join together as many and diverse expressions of one loving mystery for the healing of the earth and the renewal of all life. Let us be together in shared silence.
Now for our call to offering. A religious community is like a river formed from the many streams of our lives that meet and merge and flow to the sea. As members and friends of this religious community, we share our time and energy, our creativity, imagination, and vision, our talents, skills, and gifts, and the streams of our individual lives to create a river that is both deep and broad, a river that is made of many streams, sustains life, and refreshes the land through which it flows. But the river of this community also depends on our shared financial support that makes real our shared values and vision. We will now receive an offering for the support of this religious community and its work in the world. You can give online at the link in the order of service and in the chat, or you can have a meditative moment of writing out a check later on today and mailing it to the church. You're invited to give generously and joyfully as you are willing and able. Thank you. And our offertory today is the Sunken Cathedral by Claude Debussy. Our reading is from Greta Thunberg at COP24 in Poland. Something I've learned is you are never too small to make a difference. And if a few children can get headlines all over the world just by not going to school, then imagine what we could all do together if we really wanted to. But to do that, we have to speak clearly, no matter how uncomfortable that may be. The year 2078, I will celebrate my 75th birthday. If I have children, maybe they will spend that day with me. Maybe they will ask me about you. Maybe they will ask why you didn't do anything while there was still time to act. Until you start focusing on what needs to be done rather than what is politically possible, there is no hope. We can't solve a crisis without treating it as a crisis. And if solutions within the system are so impossible to find, maybe we should change the system itself. We have come here to let you know that change is coming, whether you like it or not. The real power belongs to the people.
Thank you, Joe. September 20th, 2019. I leaned my back against the cold marble hallway of the Massachusetts State House, and I locked my arms together with my peers and I sang with the youth. The people gonna rise like the water. We're gonna calm this crisis down. I hear the voice of my great-granddaughter saying climate justice now. It was the youth who had taught me this song. I had walked those halls of the Massachusetts State House many times, but it had never felt like this before. It had never felt so powerful. Throughout 2019, across the world, youth and young adult activists had been rising up and standing, skipping school for climate justice. The school strikes for climate had been happening for the better part of the year, and on September 20th, they accumulated with a coordinated day of action around the world. In Boston, high school youth led the organizing and successfully mobilized over 7,000 people, mostly children and youth, to walk out of school or work, meet at City Hall, and march to the state capitol. We sang together that song, marching through the streets and into the State House, blocking the halls and calling on our legislators to take urgent and immediate action for the planet. Our young people are increasingly feeling the immediacy of the climate crisis, even from a very, very young age. Later on that day, in September of 2019, I supported a group of high school youth in lobbying their elected officials. I remember the youth saying things like, "Our planet and our futures are at stake. We need to radically change everything about how we live." And the elected officials told them that this scope of change was simply impossible, that changing everything about our lives was improbable, or that it would take a very long time. I heard them say that change needed for our planet should be done in slow, incremental steps. And then a few short months later, March of 2020 came, and we changed everything about our lives in a matter of days. When we saw in front of our eyes that our lives were in each other's hands, we acted like it. We altered everything about our world and our daily lives to save each other's lives. But our lives are in each other's hands all the time. Throughout the past year alone, we've seen stories across the board about what is happening to our climate. In the first few months of the pandemic, scientists began noticing the reduced air pollution. As cities shut down, people were driving less. There were less flights, we traveled by transit less. Noise pollution in the seas was dramatically reduced with less cruise and cargo ships. But that didn't last, and the summer came. We saw devastating wildfires like we haven't seen in centuries. We've only just emerged from living through an intensely different winter than we are used to. Our neighbors in Texas, for example, are still suffering the effects of winter storms and their impacts without sufficient protections. All of these changes have led to a national conversation about climate change, the human impact on the planet, and what this moment, this week where we celebrate and mark Earth Day, can teach us about our world. We know that we live out of harmony with our planet. We know we live in extractive times. And this moment in the pandemic is causing us to pause and rethink what our relationship to our planet looks like. In our tradition, we have to talk about right relation. It feels like we have fallen out of right relation with our world. But what will it take to come back into right relation? We know that it will not only take massive change in the way we live day to day, but more than that, it will take radically rethinking the way we construct our society, the way we consume the fabric of our economy. Our young people know this to be true and are asking us for this level of commitment, for us to do this together on very small and very large scales. And for a long time, we have been told that this type and speed of change is simply impossible, that it will take too long. But what this year has shown me is that that is not true. Look at what we are capable of doing when we act with urgency. Our entire society changed virtually overnight, and then continued to change and change and change again as our situation has changed. The way we live, what we expect from each other, our government, ourselves, the way we worship, the way we gather, the things we know as normal have completely shifted in the blink of an eye. Humans are adaptable. The society we've constructed to live in is flexible. We are capable of rapid adaptation. Look, we have just done it. When our lives were in our hands, we did it. I'm thinking about our spiritual theme this month of becoming. I'm thinking about the people that we have become when we had to. And I'm sitting with that knowledge, that urgency, that becoming, that transition. What would it look like to act with this much urgency for the planet all the time? That strike that I took part of, that maybe some of you were there as well in September of 2019. We were part of 4 million people, mostly children and youth, who went on strike on that day, September 20th. We took part in 2,200 strikes across 125 countries. The students and the youth leaders took wisdom and guidance from their elders and for those who have gone before, and they're showing us the way forward. Our children and youth are building this moment all in because they have to be. This is the world we are growing up into. I think of the children and youth who I held hands with on that day, who aren't all that much younger than I. I want a better, safer, cleaner world for them. I think of my parents and my grandparents and my ancestors who dreamed of and worked for a better, safer, cleaner world for me. I know, they know, we know that our lives are in our hands. Earlier in the service, we heard words from Alicia Clark, a youth climate leader, who named that no one is disposable. That true climate justice means putting our most at-risk communities first. It means centering the margins. Justice in this moment means protecting and defending our most vulnerable communities, which we know are hit hardest by climate change. It also means we let those communities lead. Communities of people of color, Indigenous communities, immigrants, people with disabilities, low-income and poor communities, and communities who've experienced colonization. This is also something we've been learning how to better do this year. In the pandemic, when we listened to the leadership of our neighbors with disabilities and vulnerable health conditions, we knew what the way forward was. We knew to wear our masks, to keep our distance, to limit our gatherings, to protect the most vulnerable among us, those who were most at risk for harm, even if it meant sacrificing the things we would have liked to do, birthday parties and trips and going to restaurants. The actions we took in this moment this year will have always been worth it to protect each other, to make sure that, as Alicia Clark said, no one is treated as disposable. And this is a spot where there is a unique opportunity for our shared Unitarian Universalist theology. I will tell you that I'm a religious educator and I'm a seminarian, so I'm always thinking about the parts of our theology and where they show up in our world, where they show up in our work. Our first principle asks us to center all people's inherent worth and dignity. Our seventh principle asks us to respect how our actions impact each other and our planet. There is a tension between those principles sometimes, when the human impact on the planet is enormous, and some climate solutions push for a preservation of pristine, human-free wilderness, sometimes at the expense of the vulnerable communities who live there. But because we, as UUs, hold both of those values, we are very uniquely positioned to lift our voices in saying, we will sacrifice no one. No one gets left behind in the building of our movement for climate justice. We can protect both people and planet. And our youth leaders such as Isha Clark, who at 13 named this, are showing us this way. This is the lesson of now. This pandemic is highlighting what we are capable of when we act like our lives are in our hands. We have struggled this year, but we have also learned to see that we are capable of rapid and dramatic systemic change in our lives when we put our values first and when we let our most marginalized lead. All around the world, our young people are calling on us to take large-scale collective action together to keep all of us and our planet safe. I am thinking so much of those young people of September of 2019, those 4 million young people around the world who walked out of school, linked arms, sang together, shut down the State House with those words, saying we need action now, a new level of commitment. I am thinking of the feeling of cold marble against my back and the arms of children and youth linked with mine, feeling power and feeling hope. As Greta said earlier, if a few children can get headlines all over the world just by not going to school, then imagine what we could all do together if we really wanted to. So let us go forward. Let us go forward in this week where we mark Earth Day, this month where we're thinking about what we are becoming in this moment of transition and change. What is the people that we are becoming? Let us go, putting our first and seventh principles in our heart and holding alive that tension that calls us into our Unitarian Universalist theology, and do this work that we are called to do. The people gonna rise like the water. Blessed be, and amen. Please join me in our closing hymn, Blue Boat Home.
Oh, below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean. Still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun my sail and moon my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the sea, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, seeking our way by the lights of the heavens, in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on. Read the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
That is just my favorite hymn that we do, and that is a beautiful rendition. The people are going to rise like the water. We're going to calm this crisis down. We know now that our lives are in each other's hands all the time. May we act like it today and all the days that come. I hear the voice of my great-granddaughter saying climate justice now. Blessed be and amen.
We're gonna first do this direct action song. The people gonna rise like the water.
The people gonna rise like the water.
We gonna face this crisis now.
We're gonna face this crisis now.
I hear the voice of my great-granddaughter
I hear the voice of my great-granddaughter
saying keep it in the ground.
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 The people gonna rise like the water. We gonna face this crisis now.
I hear the voice of my great-granddaughter saying keep it in the ground.
Come on now. The people gonna rise like the water. We gonna face this crisis now. I hear the voice of my great-granddaughter saying keep it in the... One more time. The people gonna rise like the water. We gonna face this crisis now. I hear the voice of my great-granddaughter saying keep it in the ground.
The people gonna rise like water. We're gonna face this crisis now. I hear the voice of my great-granddaughter saying keep it in the ground. The people gonna rise like water. We're gonna face this crisis now. I hear the voice of my great-granddaughter saying keep it in.
Just a quick, before we start the announcements, I just want to say a quick thank you to everyone, Jacob, Mary, Alicia, Mike, and Sal for the contribution of the centering hymn, and also to our guest, Martha, and anyone else I may have missed. Thank you very much for today's service. Now for today's announcements. All events are online on the church Zoom unless otherwise stated. Tomorrow afternoon at 3:30 will be our midday meetup connection circle, and that is an informal conversation. On Wednesday at 4 o'clock, the spiritual writing group will meet. This coming Friday at 10 o'clock, there will be a connection circle, our coffee hour, and that is a more facilitated discussion. This coming Saturday, May 1st, is the deadline for submitting annual reports. So anyone who is from a committee or a group that would like to submit something for our annual report, that is part of our annual meeting in June, then please kindly do so by this coming Saturday. And submissions can be sent to Sherry, our office administrative assistant. And next Sunday, service will be led by Alicia and Kelly, and the theme is the springtime of life. Are there any other announcements I may have missed?
If I may add for Sunday, if everybody could think of something that you have for an intention, a wish, something you'd like to get rid of, or something you'd like to attract to yourself. You don't have to actually type it or share it, but just think of it in your head. As part of my process, we'll be releasing those to the universe or higher power or whatever you want to call that. And we will be joining together to do that. So if you can think of something, either a bad habit you'd like to get rid of, or a wish that you have for your next couple of months, something that you're setting intentions for, just bring that with you, to either to share in the chat or to just hold in your heart. That's all I have.
Right, and of course, I just want to say thank you to everyone here for attending as well.